She's a board-certified OBGYN with over 15 years of experience, and she's also the founder of HerMD, a platform dedicated to improving women's healthcare. Dr. Somi Javaid has been recognized for her work in Forbes, Vogue, and InStyle, and she's considered a leading women's sexual health thought leader. Dr. Javaid is joining us today to talk all about HerMD, plus she's sharing advice on how women can best advocate for their health. This is Advocate Now. Dr. Javaid, tell me about HerMD and how it all started.
So I am a board certified OBGYN, and it's really because I nearly lost my mother when she was only 45 years of age. She went to her doctors with left arm pain, shortness of breath, chest pain, and was repeatedly told it was too much caffeine. Her children were stressing her out. And science and data at the time could not explain why a 45-year-old thin, non-smoking woman would ever present with four-vessel disease. I was pre-med at Northwestern at the time. It was my aha moment that women needed an advocate. Fast forward into medical school, residency, and my first job, and the realities of our very broken healthcare system smacked me in my idealistic face. I was trying to see 50 patients a day, and I was not an advocate for anybody. And so when the timing was right, I wrote 3 words on a paper: empowerment, education, advocacy, and opened the doors to the first HerMD in Cincinnati, Ohio, as a women's healthcare space that gave them the time, attention, and medical treatment that they deserve.
As you mentioned, a main part of your mission is to empower women to advocate for and take control of their health. Why do you think that's so important, especially in today's world?
Because the system is very broken and it's not set up to take care of women. And what do I mean by that? Women wait longer for their diagnoses, up to 4 years compared to their male counterparts. They wait longer in the emergency room for pain medications than a man. Less than 2% of VC funding goes to female-founded companies. There's not enough research and data, and there's a complete lack of education in this country. Less than 20% of OBGYNs are even trained to deal with menopause or sexual health care. And so women really need to advocate for themselves and become partners in their care to make sure that they do not fall victim to our very broken healthcare system. And you combine that with, now I've heard some systems have gone to 6-7 minute appointments. How are you supposed to establish rapport, let alone get decent healthcare, forget exceptional, in a 6 or 7 minute appointment? It's just not possible.
And I want to talk more about the gender disparity in the sexual healthcare system. For example, there are only 2 FDA-approved treatments for sexual dysfunction in women. There are 26 for men. Can you shed some light on the reasoning for this?
Yeah, so there is a lot of reason for gender disparity. So I mentioned time. I mentioned provider bias. Historically, if you look, most OBGYNs were male, and they looked at women for 2 objective outcomes. One was for childbearing, and the second was sexual pleasure, not for themselves, but for their male partners. And so there is a provider bias, there's a funding disproportion. And even though female providers outnumber men in the workforce in healthcare, we don't outnumber them in those decision-making rooms. And then I mentioned that profound lack of education. 93% of medical students are graduating without enough knowledge to take care of menopausal patients, and less than 20% of OBGYNs are trained in sexual health care. And so when you combine all of these factors, we have this huge gender gap, particularly in healthcare, but particularly with sexual health care.
And of course, when there's a lack of proper care and attention, many patients can end up feeling frustrated, dismissed, and overlooked. Do you have any examples of that you can share with us?
Oh my God, I have patients who I did a TED X talk about this, and I called them invisible patients. So I have two examples. I have a woman who drove 2 days to come see me. She was a stroke survivor, but her marriage was on the rocks because she had no desire. And she went to multiple doctors and they told her, just be thankful to be alive. Like, who cares about your sex life? And they would never, ever say that to her husband, right? He would have 26 options available to him. And so when she came to us, we were able to find her a medication that she was a candidate for that was non-hormonal, wouldn't increase her risk of blood clot or stroke. And the next time I saw her, it was the first time I met her, she was in tears and crying and felt invisible and dismissed, and they're happily married. One more example, I had a patient who I did not get before the marriage ended, 9 years of sexual pain, and was just told, drink some wine and you'll be fine. You need to put your big girl panties on and just have sex with him. And I was her 9th doctor. And by the time she got to me, I gave her a diagnosis, genitourinary syndrome of menopause, and we gave her a vaginal suppository. And within 6 weeks, she no longer was having sexual pain. She was on to the next relationship, but she sat and she cried with me because she said, if only someone had told me and my partner that I wasn't rejecting him, that I was having physical changes, anatomic changes that were out of my control, that rendered sex so painful that I no longer wanted to have sex with the man that I loved. And it just makes me so sad because it was so avoidable.
And I would imagine that a lot of that dismissiveness can lead to a lot of shame and self-blame among patients, right?
Stigma, taboo, shame, they feel alone. And then they say things like they are undeserving of their partners. And a negative sexual life has negative impact on mental health, on self-confidence. And so sexual health is healthcare and is actually a vital sign that I take when I talk to a lot of my patients. So it is catastrophic when we don't take care of these patients.
So what's the best way for women to take back their own power and advocate for their own health?
So these are the things I tell them to do. Number one, find a provider that is trained in menopause or sexual health care. Number two, if you are going to tap into an insurance-based system, know that you will probably have a limited amount of time. So write down your symptoms, write down what you have tried, and be very, very prepared for your appointment. Also be willing to compromise with your provider. They may want to really, really help you, but be stuck in a system like I was, where I was seeing 50 patients a day. So pick the top 1 or 2 symptoms that are most bothersome to you, and then be willing to go back to address, all of your problems, and then do your research. So the Menopause Society, formerly known as NAMS, and ISHWISH, the International Society for the Study of Women's Sexual Health Care, lists by zip code providers who have this specialty training. So do your homework when you're selecting your provider, because your provider is really your partner in your healthcare journey.
Speaking of other providers, fellow physicians who are in the sexual health sphere, do you have any advice that you would like to share?
Yes, I encourage other providers and my colleagues to really take the time to get that training in sexual health care, get that training in menopause. Women are going to spend 40% of their lives in menopause thanks to increasing life expectancies. And we're really doing patients a disservice by not taking the time to garner or get this education so that we can best treat our patients.
Dr. Javaid, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing through HerMD and your practice. And thanks for taking some time to chat with us today.
Thank you so much.
I'm Sonia Baghdadi. Thanks for watching and advocating. For more stories and content like this, visit advocate.com and advocatechannel.com. The Advocate Channel is here to be a voice for underserved and underrepresented LGBTQ+ and BIPOC communities. Join the conversation. Subscribe on YouTube and Facebook. Download our Roku and Fire TV app. Take us with you. Get the Advocate Channel app on your Apple or Android device. Thanks for watching. I'm Sonia Baghdadi. There's more Advocate Channel after the break.